Operation Bunny by Sally Gardner. Chapter 1. Daisy Dashwood and Ronald Dashwood had everything a young couple could dream of. A house in the suburbs with box hedges shaped like squirrels, 2 cars in the drive with customised number plates, her 1 and his 2, a tennis court, a small swimming pool, a gym. They even owned a villa near Malaga in Spain. The one thing they didn't have, the one thing that neither money nor nature had been able to give them, was a baby. Their next-door neighbour, Miss String, had suggested kindly that perhaps Daisy should make a wish. "A wish?" said Daisy Dashwood. "The cheek of the nosy old bat! As if you get anything from wishing." "Quite right, Smoochykins," replied her husband. "Better to believe in facts and figures, not in airy-fairy wishes and daft stuff like that." Ronald knew about such things. He had made his money as a hedge fund manager, whatever a hedge fund manager was. Daisy couldn't agree more. She trusted in her credit cards, silver, gold, and platinum. Miss String's house was a real eyesore. At least, that's what Daisy called it. It had crooked turrets and large windows, and a charm that the Dashwoods' house would never possess in 1,000 years. Miss String's ancestors had once owned all the surrounding countryside. Bit by bit, the huge estate had been nibbled away by debt, until finally Miss String had been forced to sell the remaining land, leaving her with only the house and garden. Now Miss String's house sat in the middle of 3 bossy buildings, every one of her wealthy neighbours wanting a slice more of her large garden for themselves. It was Ronald Dashwood who had made what he considered to be a wildly generous offer for nearly all of the garden. This would have left Miss String a small patio at the back and a footpath at the front, so that she could get into her house. "The cheek of the old bat," said Daisy Dashwood, when Ronald's offer was turned down. "What does she need so much garden for? And the vegetable plot, oh my days, hasn't the woman heard of home deliveries? The next thing she'll be telling us is that she doesn't own a computer or a TV." On both counts, Daisy Dashwood was correct. The modern world had somehow passed Miss String and Fidget by, Fidget being her cat. The closest it had ever come to knocking on their front door was the dreadful collection of executive homes that had sprung up around her, whatever executive meant. One summer's morning, the Dashwoods were eating breakfast when Daisy spotted a headline in the newspaper. "Baby thought to be a bomb." "Listen to this, Ronald." "What is it, Smoochykins?" "It says, yesterday Stansted Airport was closed from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, causing," Daisy paused, "pandemonium. A hat box, believed to contain an explosive device, had been left in the main concourse of the terminal. Andrew Vole, 46, head of the bomb disposal team, said ticking could be heard coming from inside. It was a very good thing," he added, "that the baby started crying before we did our controlled explosion. When the lid was removed, a baby girl, less than 3 months old, was found lying in blue tissue paper. Beside her was a trick clock with a cuckoo that squirted water. The police are now searching for the owner of the hat box, who they suspect to be the mother of the infant. They said they had nothing to go on other than the name printed on the hat box, Emily's Millinery. For the time being, the baby is being cared for at Cherryfield Orphanage. A nurse has named her Emily after the hat box and Vole after the bomb disposal officer." Daisy paused, then said, "Ronald," in a voice that sounded like a cross between a whine and a peacock scream. It was the special voice she used when she wanted something expensive or difficult to get. "I'm all ears," said Ronald, and he was. He had a shocking pair of red sticking-out ears. In fact, they were the first thing you noticed about him. "What I wish," said Daisy. "What I know," interrupted Ronald, "is that you never wish, Smoochykins." "Well, I'm going to make an exception, just this once." "All right," said Ronald. "What is it that you're wishing for?" "I wish that baby was mine." Ronald smiled lovingly at his credit card munching wife and said, "Whatever little Smoochikins wants, she shall have." And in less time than it took to grow mint, the Dashwoods had adopted Emily Vole. As Fidget the cat said to Miss String on hearing the news, a wish can be a dangerous thing. "I agree," sighed Miss String as they sat in their enchanting garden one afternoon while the kettle was busy making the tea. "Perhaps I shouldn't have said anything." "Always best," agreed Fidget. "Humans, in my considered opinion, don't think things through, especially when it comes to wishes." Which was quite right. Daisy Dashwood never thought at all if she could help it. She just made a wish. Why, isn't that what everyone does? Make a wish. Easy peasy. Chapter 2. 5 years later, Daisy Dashwood had to admit that Emily Vole wasn't exactly what she had in mind when she'd made her one and only wish. What she'd really wanted was a baby girl with blue eyes and blonde hair, ideally the same colour as her own strawberry blonde hair extensions. The trouble was that Emily's eyes were far too dark for her to be a true Dashwood offspring. But worse than the ebony eyes was Emily's hair. It was jet black. Not even Daisy, the proud owner of Paradise Beauty Salon, could do anything to improve the situation. There was no getting away from it. The child just didn't fit in with the Dashwoods' ancestral colour scheme. Fortunately, Emily was brighter than a Pearly Queen's button, brighter by far than her two adoptive parents. At 3, she was well aware she was not what Daisy had wished for. By 4, she had grown used to wearing the blonde wig and the blue contact lenses. By 5, she had an inkling of what was to come the minute she heard that Daisy Dashwood was pregnant. "Oh, my days, it's triplets," said Daisy. "Well, now, we definitely don't need Emily. Could we send her back to the orphanage? I have the receipt for her somewhere." "Not really, Smoochikins," replied Ronald, watching his wife rummage in her real alligator handbag. "It wasn't a receipt, it was the adoption papers." "Well then, we can say she was a dress rehearsal, and we don't need her any more, seeing as we have 3 coming along our own." "It wouldn't sound good, Smoochikins." "I can't cope," said Daisy, raising her hands in the air. "It's all too much. I tell you, it's all too much." "There's always boarding school," suggested Ronald, helpfully. "Then we need only see the brat in the holidays." Daisy Dashwood's hopes of being rid of Emily were somewhat blighted in that department too. Wentworth School only took boarders from the age of 9. Everywhere that did take younger girls cost at least 13 designer handbags a term. "I have an idea," said Ronald to his ever-expanding wife. "Perhaps it is the best idea I've come up with in ages." "Go on then, don't keep me in suspenders. Spit it out." "We make Emily earn her keep." "How?" asked Daisy. "Well, with 3 little pairs of feet on the way, we need all the help we can get, and—" "That's genius," interrupted Daisy. "We'll tell any nosy busybody who asks about Emily that she's being home educated, which is the truth. We're educating her to be a nanny and a housekeeper." That was when Emily Vole found out that she had lost her job as the Dashwoods' adopted daughter. The blonde wig and the blue contact lenses vanished. So did the pink bedroom, which wasn't all bad. Pink was a colour Emily hated. It did come as a surprise to find she was expected to sleep in the laundry room alongside the washing machine and the tumble dryer. The bed was to be the ironing board. Never once did it cross the Dashwoods' minds that Emily was far too young to be left in charge. All they cared about was that the house was kept neat and tidy. Daisy had no intention of staying at home. Every day she went off to work. "But Smoochikins," said Ronald, "you should be resting, not working at your beauty salon. After all, you've 3 little pairs of hands inside you, and 3 little pairs of feet. That makes 30 little fingers and 30 little toenails, not to mention 3 brains." "Oh, shut up, that's disgusting," said Daisy. "Of course I'm going to work. Who other than me will check on my staff? I have a lot of people's hair extensions resting in my hands. They rely on me. There's no way I'm staying in the house all day, becoming fatter and fairground balloon. Emily will run the house. And run the house Emily did. Chapter 3. The role of General Dogsbody turned out to be a lot harder than the role of adopted daughter with wig. At least as adopted daughter, Emily had been able to wear pretty dresses and had a bedroom full of toys, although there were no books, which was a pity, because Emily loved stories. When Emily heard that the Dashwoods were expecting triplets, she had hoped that she might be returned to the orphanage. There was no doubt in her mind that her real parents were looking for her. It had been a bitter blow to find she was to go no farther than the laundry room. Emily had decided that really she was the daughter of a princess who had fallen in love with a gypsy. He had won the young princess's heart by baking cupcakes with red and green icing, her favourite colours. The lovers ran away to the magic forest, where they were married by fairies. One terrible day, the princess's father, the king, discovered her daughter's hiding place. He ordered the magic forest to be chopped down unless she returned to the palace. The fairies told Emily's parents that they would be very much missed, but begged them to be gone. Before the king could do his worst, the gypsy and the princess hurriedly put their baby daughter into a hat box. With the help of a fairy charm, the trick clock, the baby slept peacefully. Outside the hat box, the terrifying chase was on. Her parents, quite out of breath, finally arrived at Stansted Airport. The king's soldiers were waiting to snatch the princess. The gypsy put up a noble fight as they ran for the departure gate, but he was wounded in the arm, and the hat box slipped from his grasp as they made their escape. The king's soldiers didn't know there was a baby inside and returned empty-handed to face the fury of the king. It was, thought Emily, a very sad story indeed. She was determined that one day she would run away and find her parents. She had begun to collect things she might need. So far she had one packet of biscuits and a little cardboard suitcase with a lock on it that she'd found in the recycling bin. It was a letter from Social Services that finally forced the Dashwoods to buy Emily her one and only book. The social worker, Ms. Rogers, was worried that Emily Vole Dashwood hadn't been enrolled in any of the local schools. She was extremely anxious to know why. "The blooming cheek of the nosy old batskin," said Daisy. "What do we do, Ronald?" "Buy her a book," said Ronald. "The kind of thing you need to show that we're home educating her." "Couldn't we just show her doing the ironing?" said Daisy. "I mean, that's an important lesson." "I don't think that would wash," replied Ronald. A week later, Emily was given a book of fairy tales. Every night she sat on her ironing board bed, holding the garden torch and staring open-mouthed at all the pictures. She couldn't read the words, but there was enough to look at for Emily's imagination to fill in the gaps. The world began to make more sense. Emily imagined herself to be in need of a gentle lady with wings and a pumpkin to help her escape. Though one glass slipper wouldn't do it. It would have to be two, otherwise she'd never get away. The picture Emily liked best was of the big cat in a pair of boots that nearly drowned him. Whatever it was he said to the king when he stopped his carriage, everything turned out sunshine dandy. "Mrs. Dashwood," Emily said seriously. Emily no longer addressed her as adopted mother. "What?" said Daisy, spread-eagled on the sofa. Her tummy appeared to have a life of its own. It moved in a wriggly-piggly fashion. "May I ask you a question?" said Emily. "Yes," said Mrs. Dashwood, "but make it quick." "Do cats talk?" asked Emily. "What kind of a daft question is that? Don't you know anything?" "It's just a question," said Emily. "Oh, my days, we have the stupidest housekeeper ever. Of course they don't talk, just as crows don't go over the moon. What is in that brain of yours, sawdust?" The social worker came round only once to inquire after Emily, and why she was not at school, but then Daisy looked fit to burst, with all those fingers and toes. "We're home educating the little sunflower," she said to the social worker in a voice of which a screeching parrot would have been proud. "You see, Emily's not very bright. I'm afraid she has special needs." "What special needs?" asked the social worker. Oh, the kind that come from being abandoned in a hat box. The social worker, seeing the showroom wife in the glimmering show house, thought Emily was very lucky to live in such a fine home. Sadly, this is often the way. Through the windows of poorer houses, the need for help is easier to see. Money can hide almost anything, and the Dashwoods had enough to hide Emily completely from view.